Ashraf Wani is here with us in our studios in Delhi. Ashraf, good to see you back. You've been in Lebanon for the last many days. Recount for us your experience, Ashraf, because largely, if you look at the coverage by most TV channels in India, it's focused on what's happened currently or what's happening between Israel and Gaza, between Israel and Hamas. No one's talking about the northern conflict or what's happening in Lebanon with Hezbollah. How grave, how bad is it?
Akshita, basically the main threat to the Israel is the Lebanon border, because Hezbollah is the biggest force in the Middle East. They have fought many wars in Syria with different groups, in Iraq, then in Yemen, recently with the Saudis, and during last many years they have increased many folds their capabilities, not only in the men but also in the weaponry. So that is a big threat for the Israel. So far the Hezbollah has not directly got involved in the war with the Israeli army, but they are adopting a strategy where they are putting more dent to the Israeli defense forces.
Do you think it's a bigger threat than Hamas?
Absolutely bigger threat than Hamas, because Hezbollah himself claims that they have the number of 1 lakh fighters with their organization. And when I was visiting, because there is 122-kilometer long border between Israel and Lebanon, and Lebanon is a country which now clearly is visible that it is ruled by the Hezbollah. There is not any Lebanese army. Lebanese army is under the command of Hezbollah, because Hezbollah will decide what will happen in the Lebanon. When will Hezbollah start fight? That means the
Lebanon is fighting Israel, yes, not Hezbollah fighting Israel.
Not Hezbollah fighting Israelis. That is the big thing in that fight. And also during the past wars experiences with the Israel, there was a big war between Lebanon and the Israel from 1996 and 2006, what you mentioned in a small bit of a report here. Basically, first of all, I would like to give some prospect to my viewers as well to you. This is a museum which has been created by the Hezbollah in Mitali. That is one mountain top in the southern Lebanon, where that spot was once used by the Israeli army as observatory post when they had captured the South Lebanon till 2006. And there are still those housings, those barracks of the Israeli army which they were using then when they had captured the southern Lebanon. And then to get away from the southern Lebanon, Hezbollah was formed in 1984, then it fought that particular war. And during that war, it was a tough war for Israel as compared to the other countries. They had wars with Egypt, with Syria, but that war was tough, that Israeli army knows. And also what we found on the southern border of the Lebanon, that I was only the journalist from the India who was there. There were some international journalists, but you have it is very tough area, we can say, in war, because you are in the in no man's land. You cannot understand who is going to target you, because if you are with Hezbollah, you are telling that I am going to cover this area, but Israelis are completely keeping vigil. They think that any movement of any person in that area is of Hezbollah, and that is fact.
What's the level of conflict? What's the level of conflict in the parts that you visited?
I told you 122 kilometers. I have visited whole this border patch.
And is there damage? Is there a lot of back and forth between Israel and
basically Hezbollah? One of the important thing what one can understand, that all the houses in that periphery on the south border are the houses of Hezbollah people. They live with the families there. That is their residence. But when they are being called, what we reported in the earlier days, by their leadership, that you have to go to fight, and they will leave their homes and go for fight. That is a kind of a modus operandi what Hezbollah works. Number two is that on the 17th of October, because Hezbollah said that they helped the Hamas for those attacks they carried on the Israel, there is a clash between the IDF and the Hezbollah on regular basis. It was on a small level when the focus of Hezbollah was to damage all the military infrastructure of Israeli army on the border. They managed lot of that during last 15 days. Most of the towers, surveillance cameras, surveillance equipments which was installed by the Israel on the northern border with Lebanon was damaged, specifically under a proper plan by Hezbollah during these 15 days, so that they could not keep any kind of vigil and intelligence surveillance on that area. So that is so far a big achievement with the Hezbollah. If war breaks, what Hezbollah says, if this Israeli army invades in the Gaza, they are going to start this front of war with Israeli army.
There was an escalation since October 7th, and you were there almost from the start. I think 9th or 10th is when you reached. We got a lot of reports from Israel, including from Tel Aviv, of sirens going off, of airstrikes, clearly of missiles coming in, people running for cover. Is it a similar situation in Lebanon, in Beirut, where you were? Was there a sense of unease? Was there a sense of tension in the air that war could be coming in Lebanon? And were there sirens going off and things like that?
These people are used, particularly except Israel is also used to these kind of things. But if we see towards the neighbors of the Israel, including Palestine, Gaza Patti, Hamas, Egypt, Syria, as well as the Lebanon, it is not the first time they are clashing with the Israelis. There is a long history of clashes between these neighboring countries of Israel, and most parts of these countries were already taken by the Israel, then under different agreements was left back to those prospective countries, and those countries including Egypt, Lebanon and Syria. But the main thing is that these people are used to these things, because when a rocket from Israel will come to any territory, either in Lebanon or in the West Bank or in the Egypt, they know these things could happen. But when the war is at such scale, what currently is going on, the people are in fear, particularly in those areas which they seem or feel that these could be the potential targets of Israel. That is the southern Lebanon.
Do you see a lot of people moving away from their homes?
Absolutely. I in fact reported also, on a single day I traveled 40 kilometers in South Lebanon in a car. I could not find a civilian except Hezbollah fighters in that patch of 40 kilometers. There are, because the population of Lebanon is very less, it is only 5.2 million people which are living in the Lebanon, and there is also the additional population of maybe more than 5 million people of the Syrian refugees who, after Syria war, shifted to the Lebanon. And among this population, the major chunk of the people is who are either the Hezbollah fighters or the supporters of Hezbollah.
Okay, thanks very much, Ashraf. We're glad you're back safe with us. You've covered many conflicts, so your insight and your inputs on what's happening in Lebanon are also extremely crucial, because like you said, it looks like on the northern front with Israel, things are only going to escalate right now. Israel also foresees that, which is why they've been pushing in a lot more of the deployment to this area. But thanks, Ashraf, for joining us. Thanks also for all the reports that you've filed for us for the last many days from Lebanon.
Thank you very much.